lips. Pretty dry. Ugh. Oh, dizzy scent. Ugh. It's not lip balm. Oh. Oh, g'day all you wonderful people out there. Thanks for tuning in again. It must be Monday nights. Listen, we've got some huge stuff going to be happening tonight. Obviously, anyone in the freshwater scene would know the guy we've got on tonight and the price that he brings into the country. I'm looking forward to talking to Harry. But before we get Harry on, we've got to talk quickly. Pay It Forward campaign is going great guns. I've got another box of goodies delivered today, and there's some really good stuff in there. There's sliders and whatnot. So Pay It Forward campaign's going well. G'day, everyone. David, Shane, Calissa, Jeremy. Oh, look, they're all on. Questions already. Listen, just before we get on, for those people that ordered shirts and hoodies and stuff like that, I was talking to Project Clothing today. Those orders have all gone off, so they're being made for you. They should be out in the next 3 weeks. Congratulations to Johnny Sancio and Brodie McNeish winning the ABT comp on the weekend. Johnny with his first win and Brodie with his first win as well. And I think by my calculations, with only the 3 rounds, AOY will go to Matthew Langford, so previous guest on the show. Looking forward to that announcement. Don't forget to whack your postcodes in. There is postcode prizes today, and we'll do some other prizes as we go. Don't forget, if you want to donate to the Pay It Forward campaign, you can post that stuff through to us. I can't pick it up. Now, before we go into anything else, I will get Harry on. So let's introduce the man himself, Mr. Jackall, Harry Watson. G'day, Harry. How you going, mate?
Good. You?
No, I'm as good as I can be in lockdown. Obviously, they reckon lockdown gets you on the stuff. So got the Canadian club tonight. So we'll get onto that. Now, I want to zoom myself out here. I've got to. The questions will come in thick and fast in a minute, but
a couple there.
Yeah, look at this. It's almost like an American style hunting cabin you're in there. Well, tell us a little bit about your room.
It's not my room, it's my house. Oh, well, I suppose it's me living room, but yeah, there's some elk up there, and there's a moose head back there, and that's a caribou over there, and there's a couple of fallow deer there, and a full mount. I don't know if you can see that full mount chittle back behind me there, but anyway, yeah. So this is my house. It's a full timber house, high ceilings, like a sort of American style hunting lodge, I suppose you'd call it, but it
looks really cool.
Yeah, it's nice. I like the timber, and yeah, the fire's going tonight. It's been a bit cool up here with this cold westerly blowing. So
see that in the background. Now, whereabouts are you? New South Wales or Queensland?
No, mate, I'm in the clean state. I'm in Queensland. There's no diseases up here.
Yep, you're safe.
We don't allow them up here.
That's good to hear, because there's plenty of it down here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, shit happens, I suppose.
That's it. And now, before we go into too much into the questions, I know the questions will come in. Want to talk a little bit. Obviously, you're the man with Jackall. Tell us how you originally fell upon Jackall, mate. Where did it all start?
I don't know. A lot of people say, "How did you find Jackall?" But I don't know. Maybe it found me. I always had this weird. I don't know if it was weird, but if someone said to me, "Oh, look, we're catching fish and we're catching them on this, and it's got to be this colour," I've always had this thing where I never doubt people, but I always go, "There's got to be another way." So that sort of led me to anyway. So then I was guiding at the time, and I had a couple of Japanese and clients, and they were using these particular lipless crankbaits and jerkbaits and stuff like that, and I quizzed them and was, they were catching a lot of fish, so I was fairly inquisitive to what they were, and just said to them, like, I'll give you some money, I'll give them a couple of $100, and can you send me the best lipless crankbaits and jerkbaits, in Japan, and they said, "Yep, no worries." And they worked in a tackle shop in Japan, these guys. And anyway, like, I don't know, a couple of weeks went past, and a package turned up, and there might have been, I don't know, half a dozen TNs and a couple of squirrels in there. And like for $200, I was expecting 20 lures. These were supposed to be at a good price for me, because I'd taken them fishing and guiding. Like they worked for Quintrex. So it was a deal I had. I was sponsored by Quintrex at the time. So I'd take their clients fishing. So I expected, and I was like, so I rang them and said, "Hey mate, I think you might have left a few lures out of the box." And they said, no, they're very expensive. And I went, "Oh, okay, fair enough." So anyway, that's what they regarded as really good. And I started using them when I was guiding, and I'd be at the back of the boat, and I'd have a couple of clients at the front, and I'd just cast behind them, and I just realised how good these lures were. And at the time, there was a couple of brands of Japanese lures in Australia at the time, but nothing, there was a few Lucky Crafts getting around that a few of us were using and stuff like that. But these things were just like a cut above them. And, and as a tournament fisherman, and I had a background of just, I'd worked for the government, and I'd worked as a slaughterman in a meatworks. So I had no import skills or knew, I had no idea how you would bring a lure in, besides, ordering something from Bass Pro or something like that. So that was a mystery to me. And I asked a few of the big companies around the place, did they want to go in with me and start importing these things? Because we'd used them in tournaments, me and a mate, and kept it fairly secretive, and did a couple of tournaments were won with them, but we just said it was something else. And then I started thinking, look, someone's gonna get this and cut me throat anyway. So I decided to ask these companies, and they all just sort of said, "Oh, look, Japanese lures are too expensive. They're no better than anything that we're getting now. So basically, no, we're not really interested." One company was sort of interested and wanted to have a meeting with me, and then in the meantime, I just thought, "Oh, look, I'll throw a few $100. I don't think it was $1,000 or a couple of thousand in a bank account, and give it a rip, and that was 15 years ago.
That's unreal. And I know everyone, some of the people question, and we have a lot of new time fishermen that watch the show, and a lot of people question, how expensive they are. But in the grand scheme of things, in a lure that just works and has worked for 15 years, the TN60, it's just
that was the first lure I ever got. Yeah, the TN60. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably won more tournaments than you can even think about. The crazes may have gone away a little bit, but it'll come back. It'll revolve back through. Yeah. We've got a good question here while we're talking about TN60s. Jordan Stoddard's brought up a question. Harry, how many TN60s do you reckon you've sold, and what's the highest selling colour? What's the biggest colour you've sold in the TN60s?
How many have I sold?
You're talking hundreds of thousands?
Oh, yeah, easy.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, probably at one stage there we were selling 30,000 a year.
That's unreal. Yeah.
And then it's still one of them lures that, it's one of them lures that you can give to anyone and say, throw it out and wind it in, and it's almost as effective as if some professional angler had it. Like you could put, like if I go bass fishing, I'm jerk baiting on a bank on a weed bed, and my missus has never caught a bass before when I first took her, and I said, "Here you go, here's a TN60, I'll tie this on." Tied it on, give it to her. She was at the back of the boat, and the casts were going here, there, and everywhere, and she caught nearly as many fish as me for the day.
Yeah. And
I was supposed to be the pro there, using a squirrel, and I was catching bigger fish than her, because that was the target species for me, to catch big fish, and she was just still catching fish after fish. So that's the beauty of that lure. It's a anybody can catch fish type lure.
And it's a great lure to troll. A lot of people don't troll it enough. Especially when I was looking after a BP, if I took a client out on a charter and we were struggling to catch a fish, it was a black and white TN60 out the back of the boat, and we'd troll and we'd always hook up.
Yeah. As far as the best-selling colour, would have to be brown dog.
Brown dog is, my favourite colour. And for the people that don't know what brown dog is, I think I've got
brown.
Pretty prepared here. So,
Yep.
So there's a brown dog colour.
That's a colour that I can't even remember where it was, but me and a mate were just sitting somewhere one day, and like we had, you had all the fancy colours like your bluegills and your HL blacks and RUs and all that at that stage, and we were just talking about nobody in the lure business does this dull type nothing cut, like just a dull colour, no stripes really, nothing special. It just maybe looks like a little bit like a baby carp, but really nothing, like just a dull. And we talked about a dull green or a dull brown or something like that. So I talked to Jackall about it, and they said, "Oh, we'll paint a few little options for you and send them to you, and you pick one." And I got them, and I'm colourblind, so that could have been green. And I just went, "Oh well, I don't know. Look, yeah, that one looks all right." So that's how brown dog come about, and it was brown, and I've got a brown dog, so I called it brown dog.
That colour has been copied by nearly everyone in the market since, I think, but it's just one of those things that has worked, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's got UV enhancer in it, so it glows with the UV light on it. And whether that makes a lot of difference or not, I actually rarely throw that colour, but a lot of guys, and I've been with guys, and they swear by it, and they catch a lot of fish on it,
Yeah. Oh, it was definitely in the TN60, TN50, especially at dams like Kenya and Boondooma.
I've never been a dam where it doesn't work.
Yeah.
That colour.
No, that's awesome. Now, I'll hide that off the screen there. Got a question here from Paul Langley, who says, what size squirrel is best suited for dams like Sinclair? The 61, the 67, the 79. What's your sort? You've fished Sinclair a lot back in the day.
Yeah. I've never really fished there much with squirrels, but I know guys that fish there and win comps there, and they fish that 61 a lot, that size in there, and I think that's to match the bait. But I'm more and I fish for sort of probably bigger bass up here. I just like that 67 size. It really got a really good vibration for bass, I think. But like that 61 works really well, and it works good up here too. But I like the 67. But I think if I was fishing, and it depends what it's like in St Clair and Glenbourne, like if there's plenty of weed and you're fishing, a good 8-foot drop off the weed with little patches, broken patches, I reckon the 67 would go all right in there. But theoretically, a lot of guys use the 61 because the bait in those two dams are small.
Yep, and you said that the jerk bait was sort of the second lure in the Jackall range in the early days. Is that right?
Yeah, well, we got I just can't remember the whole scheme of things. There was like the TN60 was definitely the first, and then I know I got samples of squirrels and was using them, but we were only getting a few in, and then there was the Musk come along, and then the bigger TNs and smaller 50s and stuff like that. But it was sort of in the mix of those first 3 or 4 lures that I bought in, yeah.
Yeah, and I had a lot of fun today doing my, going through your website, picking the colours. That colour that is on the screen there is obviously my favourite colour for the jerkbaits. Don't ask me what colour it actually is. But
Parayuku, I think.
Yeah, but that's for anyone that's out there that's looking to jump into a tackle shop and buy a jerkbait, and you're fishing, any of those Queensland waterways, southeast Queensland, that is my favourite colour there.
I really like that colour. It was one of the first ones I ever used in Boondooma.
Yeah.
And it's really good in that darkish, like that not dirty water, but it's not clear either, those sort of dams, those bony brim dams, that sort of colour shows up really well. Whereas if I'm in clear water, like if I was fishing Glenbourne and St Clair, I'd probably use something like Banana, which is clear with like yellow or orange stripes on it.
Yep.
So it's a bit more of a clear water. But in saying that, look, mate, sometimes, I don't know, all that doesn't equate, but it's just how it works sometimes. You can use a real bright, solid colour in crystal clear water and they still eat it. So.
Yeah, do you, you've been around the fishing traps for a long time, and you've obviously imported lures now for 15 years. You had your run during AFC. You've guided all over the place. Do we get caught up in colours too much? I know this is hard to answer as a lure maker because you want all those pretty colours on the wall, but yeah. Is it more the vibration of a lure or something that sets them off over the colour?
Oh, like you can go to a lake sometimes and change your colour 5 times and you'll catch 5 fish. Like, every colour works. And then you'll go back there a week later and you'll go through 3 colours, you won't get a bite, and then all of a sudden you'll pick something up and throw it and it'll get eaten, and it'll get eaten all day, and you change your colour and you won't catch a fish. I've had the conversation with a couple of guys, and a guy said once, anyone who thinks colour makes any difference does not, or I don't know, he made some sort of anyone who thinks colour doesn't make any difference doesn't know what he's talking about. And I just said back, yeah, mate, anyone that thinks that colour doesn't make any difference hasn't fished very much.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like that, it sometimes it doesn't, and other times it does. Like you talk about guys, whether you're throwing a TN or you're throwing a jerkbait or you're throwing a spoon or a tail spinner, some days it makes all the difference. Like you can throw a lure, they might want that certain vibration on that day, whether it be a spoon or a tail spinner or a swim bait or something like that, but then they might want a certain colour in that as well. And like I've fished comps where I've been throwing a certain lure and another guy's been throwing a certain colour on the same banks, and he's catching them and I'm not. And I'll come in and I'll go, shit, I threw that same plastic along that bank. And he'll go, what colour were you throwing? I'll go, baby bass or something. And he'll go, I was throwing chartreuse with a pink tail.
Yeah.
And he's getting all the bites, and it's only a matter of a fish comes up and there's something they like, whether it be colour or whether it's smell or whether it's vibrating a bit different or something like that. It's just the difference between that fish coming up on your lure and turning away, or him opening his mouth and eating it.
I totally agree with you in that sense, because back in the trolling days, before we were all casting and everything else,
lures out the back and one would be getting all the bites.
Yep, and it was always a particular colour on that day. It was never the same each weekend you went. So, I think colours are important, but I also think that, in that sense, I learned a lot with trolling is that, that you could have a really tight vibration on a black and white lure here and a really wobbly vibration on the black and white, and that one was catching the fish. So it's a cross of everything, isn't it?
100%. Sometimes it's vibration. Sometimes that's what it's about. Sometimes it's no vibration.
Yeah.
Depending on your fish species. Look at our swim baits we're using these days. Like they've really got nothing. If you look at a say like something like that in the water, the way it swims, or the difference between say a gigantorelle and a gantia and say a Dow swimmer, the difference to our eyes is I can tell the difference because I see them all side on in tanks, front on. I study them before I buy them and when they're developing them. But to the naked eye, looking at them in the water from a distance, there's hardly any difference. This one, the Dow swimmer swims with more like a diving, almost like a darting action.
Yeah.
Whereas your gantia is more like a catfish swimming snake, and your gigantorelle is dead set just a fish slowly swimming along.
Yeah.
So that's and on any given day, one of them will work over the other.
And what's your we'll go to say that whole range. There's a question here for Swimbaits. Mark Brett's written, Harry, with the big cod craze happening at the moment in Swimbaits, are they now starting to outsell your TN market?
Oh, they're popular, but the market, the swimbait market's a lot smaller than the TN market, and they're a lot more expensive. So, there's guys, I fish with guys and you look in their box and I'll go, man, you've got more TN60s than I've got. Like they'll be nothing for a guy to have 100 TN60s in his box, where if you're buying gigantorelles, you can buy 4 TN60s for a gigantorelle. So they've probably got 6 of them,
Yeah.
So that's the difference. But at the moment, like the way the cod dams are going and the development that's going on there, they are very popular. We can't keep up. And with this COVID, it's mucked us around a lot. So this year, most of our stuff, as it comes in, it goes out and it's sold before we get it. So we're trying to alleviate that a little bit. We're doing shops now can tell us what they want. So they just get onto us and say, okay, for February next year, we want 20 of this, 20 of that, 20 of that, 20 of that in them colours, blah, 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 and they're guaranteed to get them. So That's how we're trying to alleviate that problem, so that if they've got customers going in there and want them, they can say, yep, this is what we're going to have, 20 of this colour in this model. They're all coming in, this is coming in November, this is coming in December, this is coming in February. So we're trying to alleviate the problem by doing that sort of thing. So, and I suppose, big companies do that all the time. It's called indent ordering. So, I think you do that with Shimano and all sorts of different companies.
Yeah, but you've grown over time to a situation now where you can talk to Japan and say, hey, look, I want this colour, where back originally you were just ordering what they had. Weren't you?
Yeah, I'd put an order in for, 20 RU and 10, Purple Mohican and 15 something else and 20 something else. And when I got them, I'd be like, well, hold on. So then I'd send them out to shops to the same. They'd order all these colours and they'd get something different. And it's a bit of a standing joke between some of the shops that have been with me for a while. They go, yeah, we know what you like. We order something, you give us whatever you like. And I'm like, well, you could always give them back. And they said, no, they're always sold.
Yeah.
But
no,
yeah.
I can vouch for that at Boom Doomer, looking after Boom Doomer. When I put an order in, it got to the stage there where I understood it and understand business. Yeah. I'd just go, Harry, send me $1,000 worth of whatever you got, because I knew they'd sell.
See, now we don't sort of, a lot of the colours, like all these type, all these, I call them king colours, these scale patterns and stuff like that. We develop all these colours now, so I don't sort of, and they will send us them colours months and months beforehand, and I get to test them. So I don't get crazy stupid colours. I know we know all colours work, but I try and stick with colours that are going to be popular and colours that work.
Yeah.
So and we buy bulk, like when we get gigantorels or gantorels, we get a couple of hundred of each colour, and depending on how popular it is, like that colour there, that King of the Night colour. When we buy them, we buy a few hundred of each colour because they're really popular.
Yeah.
So but a lot of colours now we've developed ourselves. Obviously, we send the file or whatever it is to Japan, and then they make up the masks or the RT patterns and all that sort of thing. They do all the painting and all that, but we just tell them what we want.
Now, being a show that covers freshwater, we're obviously going to cover bass and yellers and cod. We'll stay on the cod stuff for a minute. When you were talking the difference between, say, the Gantier, the Dow Swimmer, is there a different retrieve that you should be using for those lures, or is it all just work it out on the day? Is there something that you reckon works better for each of those lures? I'll put it this way. I've been told when you're throwing the say a gantrel and you give it the twitch and it turns around on itself, is that something you should be doing for the whole retrieve, or just doing it every now and again?
I sort of experiment with it, but I would put it like this. If I was, so to explain it a bit better, so this lure here, so let's say that's a gantorel. It doesn't matter, or this. So your gantorel, that's a chibitorel, but same thing. If you leave it virgin like that, so it hasn't got a chin weight, it will turn on itself and do all sorts of things. But the heavier the chin weight you put on it, the less action it's going to get on that turning. Yep. Self and moving. So it's basically becomes, if you put a 1/4 ounce on that, or like a 1/2 ounce on a gigantorel, you just about, it takes a lot of that turning action out of it, but it still swims. So it turns into a bait where you can swim. But if I'm, say for example, if I'd cast out in a few metres of water and I was fishing for cod and I had a gantorel on, and I come across, so I'd side scan some logs on the bottom, or there was a tree sticking out of the water. When I got near that tree, that's when I would pause it and give it that soft stroke to make it turn on itself, just in case there's a cod there. And, if it just swims past him, he might come out, have a look, and then go back. But if you put a bit of action in that lure close to his snag or where he's living, that's when you're likely to draw him up and pull a strike. But you could do it all the way back, but it just depends on the situation, whether you're sitting on a spot and you're casting to one area for maybe 10 or 15 minutes or something, or you're searching. If you're searching a bank, going along just bare banks with a Gantarelle or a Gantia or something like that, I tend to just mainly slow wind, and I'll just pause every now and then because you're probably trying to cover water.
Yep.
But if I'm on a bank where, there's a couple of banks in Copeton that I fished, and as soon as I get to a certain area, I know the cod come there and hunt. So I just turn my electric right back. I might even spot lock, and I'll sit in that spot and cast 45 to that bank and spray me casts around, and I might sit there for half an hour just because I've caught so many cod in that area. And if there's any sort of bait showing on the sounder, up on that or flicking around close to that bank, then I just tend to spend a lot of time there, and that's when I would do a lot of pausing and stroking of them lures to get them to turn. And just because there's probably, even if that cod's not there when you start off there, he comes cruising past and sees that bait fish that's not looking real natural. He's a bit wounded or he's a bit disorientated. That big old cod's like to come up and eat him. But
yeah, and that's what they do, isn't it? That's a natural thing that they'll pick off the easy food.
Yeah, but a lot of times, my standard retrieve, even when I'm fishing open banks, probably I'll cast it out obviously as far as you can on 45 to the bank or wherever you want it to land, and then I normally, even if I've got say that's a 1/4 ounce chin weight on that one, I'll give it a quick 3 or 4 turns, which gives a little bit of noise as well on these swim baits. They rattle a little bit, just that little, it hits the water, and I'll give it that few fast turns to make it look like a bait fish that's come off the bank and is struggling or something like that. And then I stop and let him sink down a bit, and then I'll go into a slow roll. So that fish, and I do that a lot with bass or jerk baits or anything too. If I hit real close to the weed, I'll crank it down, sort of a medium fast pace to make it look like it's run out of the weed, that squirrel's run out of the weed. And then I stop and give it a couple of twitches and then let him sit there for a sec, because any fish, be it yellow belly, bass, cod, barra, whatever, that sees something come out of the weed really fast and then stop and then go twitch, that I reckon generally turns them on. Like they see that thing run out, they get excited, and then it stops and they're looking at it, and then it starts darting around. That's their trigger to eat it, I reckon, a lot. And that's where I get a lot of my strikes on weed beds. And same with cod. A lot of the cod I've caught have been, you do that few fast turns of the handle, you stop and you go into a slow roll and bunk straight away.
Yeah.
Big clunk. So, but that's like, everyone's different. Like these Dow swimmers, they swim a little bit different. So, you can work them a little bit differently. When you stroke them, they'll turn actually left and right. Like they've got a lot more action than, say, a Gantarelle does. So
no, they're awesome. They're probably my favourite of the lot, the Dow swimmer. I've got a heap of them in the boat.
The best thing to do is put them in clear water and swim them in clear water before you actually go and take them anywhere to use them.
Yep.
So you can see what action you can put, and then what that lure's doing. Like it's pitch black out there. You got no idea what that lure's doing. If you don't see it in clear water in daylight, you've got no idea what it's doing in the dark.
And that's a great tip for anyone out there that, doesn't understand that. What Harry's saying is, get to learn your lures before you go, because you're fishing cope, and if you're fishing those dark hours, you can't see it, can you?
Yeah, you need to know how fast your lure's sinking and what it's doing when you do whatever.
Yeah, I've got my oldest son, he's 22, and we used to fish a lot of the bass-tastics together. And when the spoon bite was on, we'd be out there and I'd be, count me 20 every time I dropped it down. And you'd turn around and look at him. You're sitting in 100 feet of water, and he's, looking around to go, well, you count? And he goes, oh, shit, I forgot. You got to stay on the ball.
Yeah, it takes a while to get 100 foot.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, listen, got the first prize. We've got a couple of genetic lures to give away. Let me just grab these two. So these two here are done by a sponsor of the show. So genetic lures, they get for the postcode prize. So that's Aaron Harding 2540. If you can send me your address and details, Aaron, I will post them out this week for you. So you're the winner of the postcode prize. We've done that one. Let's talk yellow belly, mate. You've got obviously another, like you've got a couple of lures in each rein. Your squirrels and your TNs have dominated the bass market. Now your Trans Ams and your Mars Vibes have been pretty dominant in the yellow belly market. What what makes them stand out over everything else?
Oh, I think it's that same, what would you say, quality and vibration, and they do what you want them to do to catch fish. I think when Jackall, when the boys at Jackall develop something like both them lures you got up there on the screen, that Mask Vibe and that Trans Am, they vibrate from the very first twitch of your rod tip, and when you stop to pause them or to let them sink, they just put their nose down, they glide straight to the bottom and hit the bottom nose on. So and they've got that same vibration. Jackall actually have a computer that they can, when we actually develop a lure, we put, like, they can get that lure and change, like if that's got, look, and I don't know the beats per second or anything like that, but if that's got 1,000 beats per second, on this computer with their programs, they can change it to 2,000 beats per second. We're developing a lure at the moment, and they ask me all the questions on what I want, how big I want it, the profile, how I want it to vibrate, how deep I want it to dive, all that sort of thing. They put all the information in there. Then we spit out a sample. We test it in the water. It will do this, it won't do that. It'll dart to the side. All that sort of thing goes in. So those lures there, that Mask Vibe and the Trans Am, they're exactly the same. That's the way they were developed. That's why they don't do what a lot of the copies of those lures do. Is you can lift them, and if you hit them real hard, yep, they'll vibrate. When you let them go, they spiral to the bottom like a rock.
Yeah.
So that's not that's probably getting a fish's attention, but as soon as you stop and that goes to the bottom like that, they lose interest. Whereas that thing glides back to the bottom like that, it looks like a bait fish that's dying and gliding to the bottom. They pick them up straight away. And that Trans Am's probably, I wouldn't say it's one more yellow belly comps than a Mask, because the Mask was the first one to start winning, like as far as deep bite on yellows.
Yeah.
I won a couple of comps myself using that. And then a couple of my mates actually, they were a bit interested in the Trans Am. They said, we're going to try this. And they started playing around with the tranny, and one of them, Mark Hardman, was frigging around and put assist hooks on it and started using that, and come in one comp there, and he had a couple of yellows that were over 60. It was in Pindari, and it sort of all, they had that as a little secret for a long time. And then, I mean, obviously the secret's out now about putting assist hooks on the back of soft vibes, but that's where that started. Those guys started putting assist hooks on them, and that was like they just were looking at the little ZXs and stuff like that and thought, they got assist hooks on them. I'll put them on the back of a tranny, and I suppose that tranny sits up on the bottom like that with his forked tail up, and then you've got those little feelers and a couple of little hooks sticking out, and those yellows think for all money it's a crayfish or a shrimp, and they just suck them down.
Yeah, and look, I love them especially for that yellows and Windermere and places like that. You don't have to do a lot with them, and as you said, they just eat it off the bottom. And obviously, what you're saying there is because they sit right and they drop right is obviously why.
They just look like a crayfish going back down with his feelers sticking up,
Yep. No, that's awesome. I'll hide those away there. Let's go in and have a look at some more questions. Chris Hilton wants to know if you're going to bring out a TN 100 or a TN 120.
Nah, I don't think so. Nah, we got a TN 80. That was that's a pretty nice lure actually. I've caught some nice fish on that, like some nice barra. Haven't really much for cod or anything, but I know a few guys who have caught some pretty good cod on that. But that's fishing deeper. But yeah, we sort of. My thing was I like that for barra in the dams up north.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
So what's the difference between the TN and the Doozer?
Oh, well, a Doozer's obviously bigger than that. I haven't got a Doozer sitting here, but and this is heavier, and it's a different profile, different vibration.
Yep.
Doozers are actually really good lure. They're a really good lure on barra as well. I've caught some, I don't know, metre 10s and metre 15s on Doozers, but I don't know. The Jackall wanted to bring out an 80mm TN, and I really like it. It's a really nice lure. It's not super popular. I think it's a little bit probably big, so it hasn't got that bass and yellow belly market, but And a lot of barra fishermen don't seem to use vibration lures a lot. A few of the guides up north and the tournament anglers use them a lot, but they don't talk a lot either, so that the secrets don't get out. They take
we got a question here from Calissa Craig. Calissa said, will any new collars of the Pompadour Junior be coming out?
Possibly. We sort of bring new colours out all the time. Like whenever we do an order, we just say, what can we do that's different? So we look through our ranges and what we think might look smart on a lure, and we'll chuck that in there with it. Besides our normal, we might have 5 or 6 core colours in those Pomp Juniors, and then we'll put, maybe one other or two other new lures in there, new colours in there to see if they're going to be popular.
Yeah,
so, yeah, it probably will. Yep.
Let's go. Peter Phelps wants to know if you'll sponsor him.
Phelps, he said he asks every company that. If he could fish, I would.
Pete James here. What's a better hook size to change of my Hank tune for bass? So obviously, you must be talking about a TN60.
No, talking about a Squirrel, I'd say.
Squirrel, is it?
So he'll be talking about, because we Hank tune. So this is a Squirrel 79. I'd imagine he's talking about taking that hook off because it's a barra hook, and putting a bass size hook on there. So I'd be putting a 2, like in a, I don't know, they're just a black owner hook. Say put a 2, no, sorry, not a 2, a 4 and a 6. But it's going to float, that's all.
Yeah.
These are tuned to suspend with barrel hooks on them. So whatever you put on there, it's going to float. But all you got to do, if you get a bit of tungsten sticky putty or something like that, and just stick it under the, super glue it under the bib, under the lip there, you can get bend. You just got to play around with the weight of it and muck around. But if you want to do that, but we do that same lure in a bass model anyway.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's what he's
talking about. Yep. All right, got another one. Ricky Goward here. Do you think colour with lots of UV fishes better in clear water or dirty water?
Colour with lots of UV. No idea.
Neither do I.
I don't. I like brown dog's got lots of UV, but brown dog's not a very bright colour. But see that if you put a UV light on that squirrel, that would glow like anything UV. And so would the belly, but I'm not sure that chartreuse fishes as well as brown dog either. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. So I'm not sure it's all about UV. You know what I mean? I think there's There's UV and there's UV. Like there's lots of colours that glow UV, but I think you've got to get it right. And there's a bit of a trick to it, which I'm not obviously.
No, you don't have to give away every secret, Ross.
Yeah, or any. That's why I call them secrets.
Yeah, that's it. Let's go.
I wasn't supposed to tell anyone brown dog was UV, actually.
Yeah, well, it was let out of the bag a few weeks ago on the show. One of the
it's been out for years.
Yeah, the reps told everyone, so everyone knows that one. Here's a good one from Paul. This is a good one. I like this question. Do the imitation copy lures do much damage to the industry, e.g. the Kokoda or G Vibes, and do they reach a different market to you with, say, the TN60?
I think they damage the industry. I think they damage the industry a lot. And I sort of understand that some people don't want to spend $25 on a lure, but I think they damage, like, I don't know. It's a hard one. Like, from my point of view, I just think, why don't you, if you want to be in our industry, design a lure.
Yep.
You don't need to give it a lip like that. You don't need to make it exact. Don't send that to China and just go, make me one of these, but I want you to make it for $1. Like, carve it out of a piece of wood and send it to China and say, this is what I want. Carve something, make something different. Why? Yeah. Those people in our industry that do that sort of thing have no interest in our industry. There's not one copycat who has done anything to develop our industry. Like, they do not They do not go out and they don't find that somewhere or make that and take it to a dam and use it for 2-3 months to catch fish and go, okay, that's not a very good fish catcher. I'll change this, or I'll do that, or I'll do something else. And that's what we do. Like the first cod that was ever caught on a lure, I caught it because I put the time in. They sent me 2 samples. I went to Copeland Dam and I swam the lure, caught a metre plus cod on it. And then give it to someone else, and they took it to the dam and caught a cod on it. I thought, yep, righto, I'll bring them in. They catch cod really good. They don't feel like they would. I didn't like them when I first put them in the water because they didn't have a vibration. They didn't dive. They didn't swim. They were just something that wasn't what we would normally use. So you do that development, and then someone comes along and goes, the copycat's development is go to the wall and go, oh, he seems to sell a lot of them. And then go to the shop owner and go, how many of them does he sell? Do you sell a month or a week or a year? And they go, oh, this many. Goes, oh, well, that's worth copying.
Yeah.
That's all they do. So do they damage the industry? I think they damage, like, because I see a lot of people would message me and say, oh, this lure did this or this lure did that. And I say, mate, it's not mine. You know, it's go take it back to whoever copied it and tell them that, because it's not our brand.
Yeah.
But, you know, they just, to me, if you're going to do something like that, at least do something for the industry. Like, you know, all those guys you talked about, I don't have to mention their names.
No.
Copy the TN60, copy the Trans Am, copy the mask, copy that. I would hazard a guess to say 99% of them have never caught a fish or couldn't fish to save themselves and wouldn't have an idea how a lure is supposed to swim or do anything else. So
yeah.
You shouldn't be in this industry, it's my opinion. But yeah, that's, you know, there's probably a bit of spite in there, but that's honest.
No, not at all. And I don't want to put too much pressure on you at all. I know that there's a lot of copycats out there, and that's fine. You've been in the industry for 15 years, man, and you know, your product talks for itself, so you don't have to worry about it too much. It was just a good question.
It's a fair question if you want to get me going.
Yeah, I know what it's like. So it's all good. Now, tell us about your background, Harry. Obviously, you started fishing. We remember you from the AFC days and the big production that was. You're known as the grumpy old man of the circuit, and you know, very, very aggressive, and you didn't like to lose. Tell us what it was like back in those AFC days. Well,
nobody likes to lose. Anyone that tells you they like to lose is a liar.
Yeah.
There was like every year there was usually 4 bass fishermen, 4 brim fishermen, and then we'd be like, there'd be one on each team. There'd be a brim fisherman. So I fished for Shimano, and then I fished for Berkeley, and I can't remember who else, Ford or someone. No, I probably didn't. Berkeley and Shimano, I think. And then so you had a brim fisherman. So first year I fished for Shimano. I had Chris Wright with me, Slick.
Yeah.
And then me. And then the next year, I can't remember, maybe Scotty Towner and me. So then you teamed up and you went and fished Barra. So we'd both fish brim. He'd fish brim and he'd carry his points, and I'd fish bass and I'd carry my points. And then we'd go fish Barra and we'd team up and we'd fish for Barra and carry points that way. So it was a team thing, and it was that, like, if you had 4 guys, say there was me, Carl, Timmy Morgan, and say Jace, who you had on a couple of weeks ago, every one of us are competitive. Like, there was no aggression. We would finish the comp, shake hands, and, you know, you're out there fishing. If you go fishing in a comp and think you're fishing against somebody else, you're in trouble already, because you're not. You're going out there to catch as many fish and as big a fish as you can, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what anyone else is doing.
That's a great point, and yeah, no, agree with that 100%. But it must have been fun. I mean, all the guys, you know, you had the big personalities. You had your Motts. You had your, you know, Jace was obviously fairly quiet, and Carl was reasonably young and quiet at the time. Yourself as a big personality. Was there any behind the scenes shenanigans that ever went on where got a bit fiery or funny behind the scenes?
No, not that I want to talk about, but we had, like, it was, I'll give you an idea what we used to do. We would finish, the first one I fished, we finished the grand final. So we'd already had a bass season, fished the grand final at Boondoomba. The next day, we fished AFC. I think we drove to, from there, we drove to Landfills. Maybe we drove to Cania then, I'm not sure. But anyway, we ended up at Cania, and then the end of the tour was in Melbourne. So we drove north to Cania and then to Melbourne in a week.
And that was such a big rush.
We fished 8 comps. We fished 4. I'm pretty sure, I could be a bit wrong here, but I think we fished 4 brim comps and 4 bass comps in that time. So that's how we were going. It might have been a week and a half or something like that, but it was, you finished the comp, there was no rest day. That was, you'd get in the car at Cania or Boondoomba or somewhere, and you'd drive to Sydney, or you'd drive to Ballina, or you'd drive to the Gold Coast. You'd fish a brim comp, you'd get in the car, you'd drive to Sydney. You'd finish there, you'd drive to Melbourne.
So you're all stuck together in that process, you because you're the team. So if you had Slick, you travelled with Slick and you watched him fish brim. He come and watched you fish bass, and you'd travel the whole time together. Yep.
We had, you were zombies the whole time. We'd go out, and obviously you ate out at pubs because we're staying in motels, and we'd have a few beers, and you'd be driving next day. I remember driving down the Hume Highway. We used to share the driving, and we swapped over at there was some place where there was a big sheep. I don't even know the name of the place, but it was this massive big sheep there, and I don't know, we're all goosing around, frigging getting photos taken and stuff. And anyway, I get in the car and I'm in the passenger seat and I'm asleep, and I wake up and Slick's got the car on autopilot, whatever you call it,
Yeah, cruise control.
He's got one leg. He's got one leg out the window, and he's got the other one up on the dash, and he's sitting there like this. And I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Mate, relax and look at the road. She's straight." And and I thought, if a kangaroo or anything, a possum would have run out in the road, he had no foot anywhere near the pedals, and I don't even know if he had hold of the steering wheel, but it was just crazy. We had times in Sydney, we got kicked off a bus one night, and the bus driver, we were pretty rowdy, and the bus driver was driving along, and I don't know, someone took a fence up the front of the bus and had something to say, and Reuter was there on this trip, and he had something to say, and anyway, the bus driver stopped at this bus stop, and he said, "This is your stop, fellas," and we're looking around, we're like, no, we're going to I don't know where we're going to, the Manly Leagues Club, or we're off somewhere. It was probably 1 o'clock in the morning. And we're looking down the aisle going, no, mate, we've still got a couple of Ks to go yet. And he said, no, this is your stop. And we're all looking at each other, and one of the boys looked out the window, and there was 2 coppers waiting for us at the bus stop.
Oh, no.
We're like, okay, we're getting off.
We'll behave now.
So we got off and went to the pub, and I don't even know what happened that night, but yeah, that was pretty. We had some pretty fun times. But no, we were all, we were dead set. There was a competition when we got out on the water, but once we got off the water, there was none of that. There was no, because it's not really, the guy's not, pushing you off your boat or tackling you or doing anything like that. There's no hard feelings or anything like that in that sort of thing. You're fishing against those things with scales on them in the water. You're not fishing against the guy in the other boat.
Yeah, and look, I think we tend to have lost a little bit of that fun side over the years. It's the camaraderie and that side of things at some of the comps these days. You turn up and everyone's so driven on their own success or their own YouTube channel or whatever they're doing, and there's no campfire anymore where you can just sort of sit around and have 20 or 30 guys all sitting there talking at the same time. Everyone's off doing their own thing.
Yeah, we had some campfires there'd be 20 of us. They'd be all, all the boaters would be sitting around the one campfire on the Friday night, and we'd be all half shot talking about, whether it was hunting or fishing or catching barra or, African trips and all this sort of thing, and it was all good as gold. And then you got in your boat in the morning and went out and fished.
Yeah. No, I know as a park manager how many times back in the day that I had to tell the boaters to go to bed.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
It was always the case. I was always up chasing everyone else around. Hey,
I was always last to put the boat in anyway.
yeah, Mitch Kane says that he reckons your first comp must have been about 1952.
Mitch Kane, I think that's that. Is that Mitchell Kane? That rings a bell. I think he's that guy from New South Wales that catches all those tiny little bass, isn't he?
Yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy, Krusty.
I think he throws squirrels, but he takes them out and takes photos with his sponsors' laws.
Yeah. And we got Greg Beatty. I'll bring this one up on the screen. Hey, can you tell me, do you know anything about a Gowena and a live well? Is there a story behind that?
Greg Beatty, a Gowena. Yeah, a Gowena. That was a what was that on? That was on the AFC. Yeah, was fishing Mondrian, and I'm not sure if that was a barra comp or a bass comp. It was AFC, so no, it was a bass, and it was catching nothing anyway. Only barra on TN60s, eating all our lures, and I was going along. We had a cameraman there, and I thought, oh, something swimming across the water there, and I went over, and it was wasn't a real big Gowena. He was probably, I don't know, metre and a bit, but not a big body, just a head like this. Anyway, it's one of them real pretty, modelly coloured fellas, and I thought, he looks all right. So I just put the boat alongside him, and I picked him up, and he was pretty quiet. So I put him in the live well, and we had a bit of fun with him, chucking him in people's laps and mucking around at the cabins. And I was going to bring him home, actually, and keep him as a pet, because he was real quiet. You could pick him up, and he wouldn't bite you. And that night at the pub, I snapped my Achilles, so I didn't take him home. I let him go in the park.
Yeah.
that was Matthew Mott's fault, because we had this big comp. We all chucked in $20 each at the pub there. It was the last night of the AFC, so it was always a big party night. And we had a big pool comp. We chucked in $20. All the teams had to play pool against each other, and the semi-final was I forget who I was. Even might have been Scotty Towner. Was my partner. Anyway, we beat Motty and his partner, so AC/DC was on the jukebox, so I was doing the old air guitar around the pool table and snapped my Achilles tendon while I was doing it. So I had to play the final with a snapped Achilles, and then we got beat by Carl and Phil Strader.
Right.
So
Good old days.
I cried poor.
Yeah, as you would.
I was injured.
Hey, we got Dion Robinson's got a good question here. What's your favourite freshwater fish to catch, mate?
I'd put it this way: in winter, in winter it'd be a toss up between big bass on jerk baits or cod, and in spring and summer, it's got to be barra.
Got to be barra.
Yeah, I just like cod are really pretty fish and beautiful, and I love catching them. But they don't, like a barra pulls them backwards in the dam. So I like catching big barra, like that clunk and that jump and that tear and drag and all that sort of thing. That excites anybody. And bass around here in, May, June, if the weed beds are right, the big bass, like you're getting 50 plus centimetre bass on squirrels on weed beds is just really good fishing too. So, yeah, I don't think I've got a favourite, but probably those three.
Yep, awesome. Now, for that question, that'll be the first question for the first prize winner. So, Dion, if you can give me your address details to Corey's Dan Fishing, I will send you out. There's another couple of lures there, a couple of genetic lures. So I'll post them out this week. That's a winning question, that one. Bo Everly's on here. G'day, Bo. I don't know if you fished Somerset on the weekend, but anyway, what's your biggest bass you've caught and where was it? And what lure did you catch it on?
Oh, I don't even know what the biggest bass I've caught. The biggest bass I caught in a comp was 2.7 kilos, and it was the only bite I got in 3 days. And I caught it on a TN60 Ghost Wakasagi, silent. But I've caught a couple this year and last year that were like 54 to the fork, big fat girls. So they would have been all of that weight. They were probably 3 keggers. Caught them on jerk baits on squirrels. So yeah, I don't know. I've sort of I'm just waiting to catch a 60 to the fork so I can mount him. So.
Oh, yep. So I know Bo's a river fisherman, and he's always asking me to come up, and I think he's up around the Clarence sort of way. So
yeah, some pretty big ones in there. Yeah.
There you go. He's just got on there. He comes 7th as a Cowie. So there you go. Good job. Well done, Bo. All right. Salty is always not asking questions. Salty. So as a beginner, mates tell me TN60s chasing yellows in the rivers snag. Too easy, but catch plenty of fish. I've got a couple of brown dogs. I haven't tried them. So I don't give us a tip so I don't lose them on the first trip.
The thing is about TNs is if you fish them right, me and a few of my tournament mates will tell you that they don't snag any more than a spinnerbait. But the time that you will get them snagged really well, and same with a spinnerbait, is on the drop. So if you snag them when they're falling, then their hooks are in something. But once you get them rolling, if you feel timber, keep rolling. Don't stop. It's the same with a spinnerbait. You just keep rolling it, and you feel that timber, and you feel it, and you feel it, and you just let it come over it. So it should come over it, basically lip forward, and then drop its head and hide the hooks and come through. But a lot of guys, also these days, a lot of guys are rigging singles on them.
Yep.
And they tell me that the hookup rate is just as good, and the snags are like, you'll cut your snags down 50%.
Yeah, no, I'm a culprit of that. I have been running the single hook just on the front, nothing on the back for a long time now, especially at Kenya and that when you're throwing into that gnarly timber with those friggin' really hard hitting fish. And never noticed a difference in the hookup rate, but did save me losing a lot of lures. So get yourself a lure pole and a lured retriever, Salty, and if you can't get it with a pole.
If you're fishing from a boat though, like if you get snagged, don't rip at it. Just go the other side of it, wind your line as you go past it, and give it a couple of quick twitches, and 90% of the time they just pop off.
Yep. No. Excellent. Good question, Salty. Thanks for that. Paul Langley again here. Silent or rattles, why and when?
I don't know why, but if I'm fishing for yellowbelly, I don't know he doesn't say what he's fishing for, does he?
No.
So if I'm fishing for yellowbelly, I use rattles 90% of the time. I just think they like that rattle. If I'm fishing for bass, if I'm fishing really early and the bass are active on a bank, on weed beds, I'll fish a rattle. But if I don't get a bite in, within 15 minutes, I'll change over to a silent. But if I'm fishing through the day on weed beds or banks for bass, I fish silents pretty much 90% of the time.
Yep.
But there's days when they eat rattles just as well.
Yeah.
But I've just got so much confidence in silent TN60s that's what I throw. The same with Barra. I throw 90% of my lures I throw at Barra would be silent as well.
Yep, excellent. Another question. Rebecca O'Connor has put, will Trans Ams ever come out with heavier hooks?
Probably not.
Probably not.
They're designed. Trans Ams are funny lure. Like they just catch fish way out of their class. Like they were never designed to catch what they catch. Like they're never designed to catch meat at 30 Barra, yet we catch them on them. But so they just don't want to put those sort of hooks on. And Barra are the things that straighten them. Like I've caught, I leave those hooks that are on them, I leave them on there, and I catch threadies and dewies and snapper and all that sort of thing. So a lot of fish you can. Obviously they straighten them eventually, and you straighten them in the net and you pull them out in the carpet and do all that sort of thing. But the short question is no, we probably never will, because that's not what they were designed for.
Yeah, true. No, that's a great question. Thanks for that question, Rebecca. Just going back through some of the earlier questions. Steve Bounds has asked what lures are good for yellows besides the TNs. We've sort of covered a little bit of this tonight, but is there anything that we've talked about? Your Trans Ams, we've talked about the Mars Vibes. What else do you find is good yellow belly lure for Steve?
Oh, mate, it depends where you're fishing. Like I was just looking at his question. He doesn't say where he fishes, or that's a real hard question. Like there's guys, if you're fishing in a river and it's really snaggy, you're probably better off throwing something like a TN or a Brock Ripper or something like that, which is one of our diving floaters. So you can walk it over the timber or something like that. But Because if you try hopping a mask or a Trans Am where there's timber, you're probably going to get snagged.
Yep.
But yeah, like realistically, if you look at the tournament results, if I was going to fish a tournament for yellows, and I could take one of each lure, I'd take a TN60 rattle, I'd take a Trans Am, I'd take a mask, and I'd take probably a gulp grub. Because fish are in the trees and that's what they're on, that's what they'll eat. And you could probably take a ZX or something like that, which is not my lures, but I'm just telling you from an honest view. That's what I fished when I fished yellow belly comps. They were the lures I had ready to go all the time.
Yeah, look, and I say it a lot, not just because you're on the show. The standard, if I'm fishing my whaler, the doozers are in my box. That's you know, I never go to my whaler without them. But if I'm fishing for yellows, especially for a dam like Windermere, I've got Trans Ams, I've got Mars 5s, I've got I've got ZXs, and I've got Berkeley Gulp Grubs. I mean, that's purely and simply, and they work everywhere.
There's nearly no trick to catching yellows these days in them sort of comps, or in them sort of dams, because everyone knows they're the lures to take there. The trick is to find the fish and to work out how they want the presentation done, really.
Now you got Marnie still working for you, and there's a question from Clarissa, and she's one of the female fishermen that likes to push all of you guys out there. Will Jackall bring out some more women's apparel, hint, hoodies and shirts?
I said I wanted to do that for this winter, and Marnie didn't want to do it.
Oh, so it's Marnie's fault.
So she needs to talk, yeah. But see, the problem is if we bring it out, that it's just apparel's just it can be a nightmare. Like it's good. Everyone says, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind that Jackall hoodie, but then you've got 15 sizes and you've got which colours do you want, and then you've got to store it, and then you've got to do this. I mean, we'll do more apparel, and we're going to do it. But this year we sort of got a bit hung up in COVID because when it come in, we thought, well, there's no one fishing dams. When are they ever going to open again? Nobody's going to have any money. Businesses are going bad. We won't do any apparel. So we sort of got a bit hung up, and then by the time everything opened up, it was too late to start ordering apparel. We actually tried to order some apparel, and the companies that we tried to buy it off had none because of the same reason, because they didn't order in. So just, Calissa needs to talk to Marnie about that and get up her.
There you go. Calissa, get on to Marnie about that one. And I do agree. Like when you've got we used to have to do it at Boondooma, and you'd stock the Lake Boondooma shirts and whatnot, and you'd have to order so many shirts, and you'd always end up with friggin' these shirts left over from last year and this year, and you'd have different colours, and you'd have to sell them off and lose money on them, and it becomes a bit of a pain in the arse.
Yeah. I mean, we don't mind because it's nice to see your apparel on people, and there are, like, our logo's pretty much, it's a nice logo and it looks good, but it's just that it's probably more this year with that COVID thing that, and the suppliers didn't have the stuff we wanted.
Yeah.
Because we don't you can do apparel and you can do apparel. We like it to look fairly nice if we're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair enough. Now, Owen McPaul here. Harry, what time of the year to find the Jackall eye prop most effective? And do you think there's a place for it in the cod size version?
The eye prop. I honestly have never really fished the eye prop very much. I've caught a couple of fish on it, but I was never, to be honest, never really a fan. To be honest with Owen, I would sort of say, I don't reckon I could even. What do you want to know? Most effective, and do you think there's a place
for a cod version, so a bigger version of the eye prop?
It just means like a cod propeller type lure. Yeah. Like cod. That's what cod are like. They would eat something like that, but I'm not sure how effective it would be. Like as far as longevity goes, I'm not sure. We catch. I've caught cod on prop baits like fizzers on the surface, but if he's talking about a sinking type prop bait, I'm not too sure. Yeah, no, fair enough.
No, that's all right. So, Bo, is there anything big coming out that you think is going to be a bigger hit than the TN60 in the Jackall range for bass? Got anything new in the plans behind the scenes?
Oh, no, not really.
I mean, it'd be pretty hard to beat the TN to start with.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, they might, like, our designers, Jackall designers, are working all the time, and we're bringing stuff out all the time. But my problem is I get to see it all and try it, but there just hasn't been anything the last couple of years that could jump all over that. And to be perfectly honest, I don't even know if there's a lure that anyone's bought out in the last few years that's jumped the market that wasn't already been there. Like, there's plenty of guys bringing out lures that are, the spoon craze went mad, but like there's all different brands of spoons, and there's everyone's going to bring out a new spoon now, and by the time everyone gets them all out and that's so then the bass will be sick of the sight of spoons, and they'll start eating something else, so they'll go back to tail spinners, and then it'll be something. But I just think that's just a rotation. I don't know that there is going to be anything that's going to happen in the next couple of years at least.
No, that's fair enough. And look, as far as longevity goes, the TN60 has been around for such a long time and has worked for such a long time. It's probably the exception to the rule in what you're saying with that cycle. Spinnerbaits come in and out, tail spinners in and out. Spoons were in years ago and then went out. Now they're back in again. But the TN60 is really sort of stayed solid all the way through, hasn't it?
It's more a water cycle, really. If you watch the pattern, if we get rain, and I'll just say, for example, in Queensland and New South Wales will be exactly the same. Like, bass don't know there's a border there; they just know the water's a bit cooler. So if we get a wet season and the dams fill up and they stay fairly stable, and we get weed beds, and there's plenty of bait around the banks, and there's blah blah blah, everything's happened. The bird life's good. We get a couple of real nice seasons for about 4 or 5 years, and everything's perfect. The fish are on the banks, they're healthy, they're eating, they're feeding in the weed beds. So, your spinnerbaits, your vibrations, your TN60s, your squirrels, your plastics onto the banks, all that sort of stuff works really well, because that's where the fish are. They're feeding and they're active. The water's fresh. Once that water starts falling, you get a few, which is we've got now. We've had a few bad seasons, a couple of drought, not drought, but our dams are back down around 50 or 60% now.
Yep.
So when that water starts going back, the weed dies. So it takes all the bait fish out of the weed, shrimps, whatever. Everything goes back out in the middle. The bass or yellowbelly or cod or whatever go with it, and they start feeding out there. So then you're on tail spinners, spoons, mask vibes, transams. You got to fish deep, and the fish are they're probably just as active, but the food source is so condensed, they're eating more. So or you even sometimes the bite's that bad that you're down on ice jigs and fly.
Yep.
So that's the sort of a thing. Like I remember when we had that drought, like 5 or 6, 7 years ago or whatever. A guy said to me, "Oh, your TNs and your masks and all that, they're died now. You might as well not bring them in anymore because the fish are used to them." And I said, "No. As soon as we get rain and the dams fill up, you just watch the cycle change. And as soon as we got rain and the dams filled up and the fish got active, there was plenty of water, everything was fresh again, bang, they're straight back on that sort of bite." It's not really it is, they do get used to certain lures, but look at Copeton this year. Copeton, just after 2 years of virtually dead fishing, for some reason, Copeton just come back. The bait fish, for some reason, I don't know if the water level rose or there's weed there or whatever, but the fish are back.
The fish are back.
Yep. So it's more a water thing, I reckon, than it is a lure thing. I don't know if I've probably got off the subject there a bit, but yeah, that's
totally agree.
Yeah.
I was looking for a question back earlier. I can't find it. The question was, what's your favorite, talking about Copeton and cod, what's your favorite lure at Copeton?
Oh.
Or what's your go-to lure? What's the first one you pull out? Yeah, for cod. Yeah.
Probably that. Probably a Gantia. And I'd say that because when I started fishing there, obviously, I caught the first cod there on a Gantarelle, but then I started fishing there and I went to Japan. In between that time, I had Gantarelles and they were popular. And then I went to Japan. They said, "Oh, we've got a new Swimbait. We'll show them." And they've got a big tank, and you stand basically in the middle of the tank, and it's I don't know, 20 feet long, and you see the lure swim past you. And this thing swam past me, and I said straight away, I just said, we're going to have them. And Marnie was there, and she said, oh, why? And I said, I don't know, you just got to look at it in the tank, and you know it's going to catch fish. And they give me 2 samples, same thing, and I took them to Copeton, and one was Sexy Are You or something. And I think within an hour or 2 hours I was there late one afternoon, I had a meter cod and a 95 or something like that. I caught on it. So I just sort of fell in love with them. And then I took them to Faust, and I caught 3 cod. That'd be funny. 3 barra there one night. I think the smallest was a metre and the biggest was a metre, maybe 10 or 12 or something like that on the same lure. And I don't know, I just like that lure. I think it swims like a catfish or a bait fish, something that, you know, predators eat. And to me, it's not as hard to use as, say, you know, trying to throw a gigantorel. I know, look, guys catch monsters on gigantorels and they love them and they're a good lure, but I just like that lure because I can throw it on me barra-bait caster. You know what I mean? So that's just me go-to, and my second one would probably be a 7-inch dunkel. When they're not eating hard bodies, I've caught, you know, I don't know how many cod I've caught in Copeton on a 7-inch dunkel, but I've caught some real nice ones, metre 5s and metre 7s and stuff. So,
and I don't think enough people at Copeton are throwing the plastics. You know, they do it at Eildon and places like that, but they tend to just stick to the big hard swim baits up there, don't they?
Yeah, they tend to. Yeah, I fished a dunkel there a long time ago, and when they first come out, we fished them there, and yeah, we had a lot of success with them. And they're a good lure. You can sink them down deep and swim them along the bottom in 15 or 20 foot of water. So if you chin weight them, so yeah, they're good. But I suppose the big swim baits seem to, over night time, those big swim baits seem to, like your gigantorels, seem to bang some pretty big fish.
Yeah, yep. Hey, Brucey Anderson wants to know what's the best way to remove a treble if you hook yourself?
This would be a stupid question.
Well, there was one before. He wanted to know what colour jocks you were wearing, but I didn't bring that up on the screen.
Best way is, well,
I think if you want to know the answer to that, Bruce,
I've got a photo somewhere. I should have thought of it. I should have put it up of a lure stuck in his ass one day out off where were we? Lucinda, about 30 miles out, and he had a lure stuck in his ass. And previously before that, and if you know Bruce, you'll know this is true because he can eat pretty well. He's not bad on the tooth.
Not bad on the tooth, yeah.
We was driving along, and I was having salad roll for lunch, and I put my salad roll in the seat, and I was driving, and when I went to grab it, I thought, oh shit, where'd that fall to? And I looked around, and Bruce had it in his gob, so he ate me lunch. So then he ended up sitting on this lure and got it stuck in his ass. And I said, here, I'll get it out. I was standing behind him. And I, like, you know, everyone knows you just put
the string around,
the line around it, pull it out. But I had hold of the lure, and I was just, his mate was there with the camera, and I was pulling on this lure. Bruce was bent over the side of the boat, and he's going, are you getting that out? And I'm like, yep. I was just pulling on this lure, pulling half the skin off his ass. So he suffered. He might have got me sandwich, but he suffered for it.
That's it. Don't steal another man's food.
Yeah.
Hey, look, man, we could go on all night. Look, we've been on for a fair time now. I really think we should almost wind this up. I've just got probably a couple more questions. Get them in really quick so we can get them done and we can go enjoy ourselves. David said, do swim baits suit the river, or are they just an impoundment scenario?
Oh, they suit the river. It just depends. I suppose, like, if you're going to fish them around snags, you're going to snag them because that's, you know, because of the way they swim over a snag, they're going to hook up. But yeah, like, cod love them in the rivers. Like, they're, you know, cod like, they're aggressive, and anything that swims past them, if it's to their liking, they're going to eat it, whether they're in a river or a dam. You know, probably river cod are probably easier to catch than dam cod, really.
No, well, we had Rod McKenzie and Glenn Casey on early on episode, and they were telling us how easy the cod are in the rivers to catch. So apparently they are. I haven't found that way. Listen, David, Dave, what was it? Dave Wally. We'll give you the last prize. It's 2 genetic lures. if you can send me your details, I will send them through. And hopefully this week I don't get the colours mixed up that I said I'll give you, because I got them all mixed up last week and sent them all to the wrong addresses. So the right people got them, but they got the wrong colours that I said I'd give them to. So that's all good. Hey, mate, listen, thank you very much for being on tonight. As I said, we've been on for a long time. The questions are coming through. Everyone's still on there watching, but I think we better call it stumps for the night. Is there anything you want to tell anyone? You got anything coming out, or any? We've got no after trade shows this year or anything like that.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. So just get into your local tackle shop. If you want to know anything, jump onto jackall.com.au.
Yeah, we got something pretty fancy coming out for the barra fishermen. Probably just maybe Christmas or a bit after.
Excellent. I'll be hopefully the borders will be open, and I'm putting all of my efforts into. I'm going to do a big long barra trip, I think. By the end of the year.
Where you heading to? A Wonga or somewhere?
I'll probably spend 3 or 4 weeks up there and do a Wonga.
Right.
And yeah.
Or anyway.
Yeah. Go as far up as I can. So, listen, thanks very much. Thanks for everyone to being on, watching. Thanks for all the questions that come in. Thanks for your time, Harry, tonight. Really appreciate it. As I said, Jackall Australia on Instagram, Facebook, all the things, .com.au if you want to jump on. Or every tackle shop's got Jackall in it, so just go in and buy some product. So,
yeah, and if I think of it or I get any time, I'll jump on and see if I can answer some of them questions on your Facebook page.
Yep, excellent. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks, everyone, and we will talk later